Hey everyone, RogueGold here, and we are back with another State of the Game recap. This is for State of the Game number 149 for February 26th, 2020. And when I say that this stream was huge, that would probably be an understatement. My excitement level for Warlords in New York has legitimately increased, which I didn't even think was possible, but here we are. Today, Hamish had Yannick and Trick on to discuss seasons, and I'll tell you now that you should buckle in, because there's a ton of reveals and info coming your way shortly. But first, I don't want to have to reiterate every time it comes up, so they provide a ton of pictures and graphics while they discuss the various topics, and all of those will be up on screen as I talk about them, but if you need or want more time to look them over, then you can of course pause the video for that. But with that all out of the way, let's dive into this super exciting info. Alright, I'm going to try and keep this as short as possible because it's probably going to run very long, but let's just dive right into it. So they started off with priority alerts. They said maintenance yesterday changed the level 30 boost to only give you credits and materials once, because there were some people that were exploiting that and using the boost multiple times to get their materials up to the cap or even beyond the cap, I believe. So now you don't get credits and caches every time. You can still boost multiple times, but you only get those rewards once. There's a free weekend coming this weekend starting February 27th. The preload for that free weekend is available now on PS4 and PC, and if you log in from Thursday to Sunday, you're going to get a free mask, and that's for everyone, regardless of if you already own the game or not. There is no exact launch timeline for Warlords yet, TBA for that on Twitter and the forums. They will announce that prior to Tuesday's launch. There are reports on clans and social lists having some bugs. That's being investigated and hopefully will be fixed with TU8 coming on Tuesday. The refer a friend rewards not showing up in your inventory being looked into. That's been escalated on their priority list. NPC spawning in walls, etc. has been noted and they're looking into it, but there is no definite fix yet. And the preload on Warlords is probably not going to happen because it's not a new game, it's just an update. But they said when they release the launch timeline, they will announce if there's any sort of preload or not. So then they went right into the dev interview on seasons. So here we go. They said first that the new endgame purpose is basically you end the Keener campaign, you finish all those missions, you get to level 40, and then you're presented with seasons. You have the level 40 stat bank to fill, etc. So first they said bounties no longer require target intel, and the priority weekly targets on bounties are replaced by the seasonal manhunt. So lower difficulties prepare you for the harder ones, whether that be in missions or in the open world, etc. Endgame is this is funny, they said Endgame is definitely a pillar for Warlords in New York. Heard that before with launch, and that didn't turn out to be exactly true, but I think after we hear some of the season info, that might change mine and some of your guys' minds. They reiterated that DC still Endgame at level 40. It's not stuck behind at 30. I think Thylander has been answering that question for the last 2 weeks on Twitter, so hopefully everyone understands that by now. Seasons basically structure all of the different endgame content is what they said, and so you'll see that coming up. The big criticism of Division 1, or one of the big criticisms, was that you needed kind of the difficulty of gear for different activities like legendaries and incursions. You needed that echelon of gear that it dropped in order to successfully beat those missions, but hopefully they want to eliminate that this time when they're introducing legendary on some of these strongholds, and that coming via shade levels. So hopefully shade levels should boost you up a little bit and give you what you need to complete the legendary so you can get that gear and then complete legendaries again more efficiently. They also said the frequency of loot drops is being lowered, which I think is a good thing, because all the gear now is better overall. There's going to be less loot drops so that you're not just getting good stuff right away, and I think that is a good change that they are bringing. So then they jumped right into seasons with a Season 1 roadmap, and this just looks awesome. They said there are new targets every 3 weeks. There's 3 global events, and we'll get into one of those shortly. There's an Urban Jungle Apparel event coming, and every week there's a new activity to do. And this is just super awesome to see and hear them talk about, because it really just means that even though we don't have these replayable game modes that everyone's been asking for, this is what's going to keep us busy. You do the content you like, and then you do this stuff every week. There's new stuff to do, new rewards to get, and it's just going to really keep the flow of the content and the game going while we progress into year 2. So then they went on to a picture of the Manhunt tab. They said after completing activities, the Manhunt target becomes visible, and so per week there's a new lower tier target that you get in order to move up to the higher one. The Manhunt targets perform a major takeover of the zone they're in, but this does not cancel out invasions. Invasions still happen, but additionally, these Manhunt targets will invade the zones that they are in. They said each of these targets also has narrative dialogue and information on them, so there's a backstory. Every main priority target, which is the main manhunt in the center there, has a new skill variant that they drop. And when they say skill variant, I am tending to think that would actually mean like a new mod for a skill, like the Banshee Pulse with Gunner, like something like that. I don't know if they mean that or if they mean a skill visual, like the ones you got with the pre-order bonus for Division 2. But if that really means a new skill variant for every main priority target, then that's really awesome. But I'm not 100% sure on if that's what they mean, so we'll have to see on that. They said that these activities are one of the ways they're adding structure to the game, so the seasons are really structuring what you do while there's no like content updates coming out and all that. Switching world tier difficulties resets the manhunt progression unless you've already killed one of the lesser targets. So if you have the weekly checklist of what you need to do in order to progress your manhunt takedown, then you can reset the open world difficulty, and that will kind of reset those activities so you can replay them and get more season XP and all that stuff. They said there's going to be a new soundtrack for Warlords of New York, some new music, which should be pretty cool because the soundtrack for this game and the first one is pretty good. They showed a picture of the menu, which showed that the Seasons tab has not replaced, but just kind of shuffled down the Progression tab, so the Seasons had the major prominence because they are basically the big endgame draw here. And so the Progression tab has just been moved slightly lower. They showed a picture of the season track. So the premium track comes free with the expansion just for season 1. So usually you will have to pay around $10 per season for that premium track after season 1, but they wanted to give it to free for everyone this time. And I think that's a nice thing that they did. Wish it was all free, but that's nice that they gave it free for this season. They said that the premium track has no rewards of power. However, you do get some gear, but any of the gear that you get on the premium track is also available out in the open world. So it's not exclusive to that track. So that's a good thing. Each season track ends, or somewhere in the middle, has a new exotic on the free portion of the track. And that's really exciting. I'm assuming after the season's over, this exotic will be rotated into the open world, but that's really cool that they're adding new exotics every 3 months with these seasons coming. That's really awesome. And they said the first season is 12 weeks, and there will be kind of a 1 week off week before and after that season happens. And here we go. Here's one of the big reveals. Striker is coming back. They said you get a full set of Striker and System Corruption, which is the new gear set that I did a video on. I'll leave a link to that if you want to see it. But you get a full set of those 2 gear sets with the free seasonal track if you complete the entire thing. So they showed a picture of Striker and Corruption, so you can pause it and read what those do. But Striker is going to be really strong. It has 15% rate of fire for the 3-piece, so we'll see how that turns out. They said the helmet on the Striker pick is part of the Striker outfit, and that is part of the premium track. And so they said that's the kind of rewards that they want to emphasize on the premium track, are these cosmetic rewards that look really cool with some of the things that they're adding to the game. They said that a seasonal timeline is available in-game. They showed a picture of the events that are coming, but you can go and see, okay, in 2 weeks this global event is starting, in 3 weeks this is starting. So you basically have a sense of what's going to happen throughout the duration of the season while you are currently in it. So then they moved on to the Polarity Switch global event, which I believe is the first one that's coming, and they showed a video of some gameplay of it, so I'm going to play that now.
So when a global event is started, players opt into it. You do so here inside of the Seasons menu. You can do that if you're in any safe space. And now when you walk out, you're greeted by these enemies who are yellow or blue. And you'll notice that your arm is either yellow or blue, positive or negatively charged. Mm-hmm. You do extra damage based on how well you're playing, essentially, to same polarity enemies. And if you really want them to change polarity, you can go up and punch them in the face. Mm-hmm. That'll change the polarity of them and everyone else in their fire team. And so there's a lot of strategy. Your polarity changes every time you reload or every time you switch weapons. And by matching, you'll notice that he's got a 4 over his shoulder and he's about to have a 5. Yeah. That is a stacking buff for, hey, you're doing this correct. That damage buff is getting stronger for shooting those same color enemies.
Is there a cap for that?
I believe it caps at 5. I think 5 is as high as it go, but it's 5's a lot. You're murdering these guys. I'm certain someone will frame by frame through this and see the exact percentages. However, if you get it wrong, you're essentially given exactly one mistake, is it wipes out all of your stacks. And then a short moment later, if you hit with a second bullet, you will receive a shock for having played wrong.
I think we see that coming up soon in the gameplay,
it's
actually.
Coming. So again, here you're yellow, so you want to shoot the yellow enemies, because if you shoot the blue, you're going to be punished. So as long as you shoot the yellow, you build up your stack. Here you switch to blue because there's a blue coming, so up, you can kill the blue, build up your stack. But you always have to be aware of what color they have, what color you have. As long as you play it right, you're going to get that damage buff, which means you're actually going to be more powerful than, in the normal game. But as soon as you do it wrong, like that, boom.
Very cool.
Don't do it wrong.
And it's really wild because this stacks really complexly with with some of the directives, because one of the directives is ammo hoarders, and so you actually get a lot less ammo, and every time you reload, it dumps all of the ammo that was inside of your magazine, making this get very complicated very quickly unless you're being very, very aware. But directives are always opt-in. You can turn them on for just a mission or turn them on globally. And so it's a really...
So yeah, it looks pretty cool. We'll talk about the shock thing. That's the only thing I'm kind of concerned about with it. But they said you opt into global events via the seasons menu, so you don't have to participate in them. I think that's good. So the Polarity Switch global event sees you building damage stacks by shooting enemies with the same color that is currently on you. But if you mess that up and you keep shooting the wrong targets, you get shocked as a punishment. I think that's kind of harsh. I would really not want... I'm going to obviously participate in the global event, but I wouldn't want to go in the dark zone, accidentally shoot the wrong NPC, and then just get shocked and have a player melt me. We'll see how that turns out, but that's how it's going to work right now. They said the green bar that you saw under the shade level in that video is the seasonal progression bar, and then the top one, of course, is the shade level, which is replacing field proficiency caches. Season levels go from 1 to 100. Each level, they said, should relatively take the same amount of time as a field proficiency cache does now. So they said 50 to 100 hours should be all you need, even if you're going slow, to get that entire rank filled up. But they also said that there's a lot of XP chunks you can get from different things throughout the season and throughout the global events, and we'll go into that soon. They showed a picture of the Polarity Switch global event menu, and you can see some of the daily challenges there. And they said that once you unlock these daily challenges, as each day goes on, they aren't day exclusive. You won't lose the day one challenges if you don't beat them on day one. They just kind of stack up, and then they're there for you to complete for the duration of the global event. And global events each last 1 week. And they said you get a large chunk of shade and seasonal XP when you complete these challenges. So that's why I was talking about there with the XP not just being exclusive to the bar in the corner. You get a lot of it for doing these other activities. The global event rewards look really neat. There's a unique arm patch, seasonal caches, crafting caches, and then at the end of it, at rank 9, there's an exotic cache you get, and at 10, then there's a unique backpack charm. And that's for every global event that comes. There will be new patches, new charms, and I think it's just really awesome that they're adding this much of content that's only there for a week. Like, that's the thing, that they're just adding so much stuff so shortly. It's going to keep a lot of people busy, and that's what we've been needing for a long time. Some of the exotics are going to be omitted from the cache, like the Eagle Bear, the raid exotic ones. And obviously, I think that's a good thing. You don't just want to have people getting the Eagle Bear from the global event that everyone can do, but most of the exotics will be in there, and that will be a good way to get your exotics for this this new DLC. They said global events and seasons go hand in hand with XP and progression. Like when you're leveling up your season, you're also going to be simultaneously leveling up your global event because they're tied together. And obviously, I think that's a good thing. You wouldn't want to have to devote your time to one or the other and then miss out on the rewards from one of them that you don't do. So that's good. So in between the GEs, because each GE is a week long and there are 3 of them total throughout the 3-month season, in between are these 2-week events called leagues. And there's a picture of what this kind of looks like. Basically, there are time trials for various challenging and heroic missions in multiple stages. And these lead to the same kind of rewards that the global event offers. So there's a patch, a backpack charm at the end, an exotic cache, and some of those caches in between. And basically, you have to complete these missions on quicker and quicker times in order to progress yourself through the league system. And I think this seems, pretty cool. I've never been huge into time trials, but I'll definitely be trying this out to try and get some of those rewards later on. They said leagues are tough challenges and they're made for the more hardcore players, whereas the GEs are more entry-level stuff. And I think that's really cool, giving both casuals and hardcore players something to do throughout the duration of this season. They said each league challenge has a leaderboard, so you can compete with people to see who gets the best time. That's really cool. Like I said, the same rewards are on the league tracks as are on the GE tracks. Then they said the Urban Jungle Apparel event is what's coming with this Season 1, and that's going to be 3 weeks long, starting in March, I believe it's set on the calendar there. So that should be a pretty cool apparel event, if I had to guess. Urban Jungle should be pretty fun. They said that seasons give a weekly drive to play, as well as giving people a choice on how much they want to invest into each of these elements of the game and the season overall. Like, you don't have to participate in any of the season stuff at all. It's completely optional. But if you do, then you can really choose how much time do I want to invest in this? What kind of rewards do I want, and how far into the track are those rewards? And I think it's just adding so many layers to the game that we haven't had previously, that it should just feel like such an alive game now with so many different aspects into it that you can choose what you want to partake in. They said that projects have been simplified. There are now daily and weekly PvE and PvP projects, so that's cool. The gear, named items, seasonal gear sets aren't exclusive to the season track. They drop out in the open world, so pretty much any new item that they introduce in the seasonal track is also available in the open world. So I think that's a good thing, that it's not exclusive to like level 70 of the season. You know, you can also just go out and farm targeted areas, and you have a pretty good chance of getting that item. I think that's a good thing. They reiterated that seasons are a level 40 endgame only. It's after the Keener campaign, and they're definitely a continuation of the story. There's a lot of narrative tie-ins with these targets, and they wouldn't really reveal anything about the kind of targets we're hunting down, so I think that's pretty interesting. We should be able to see kind of where they're going with it once we get our hands on Warlords of New York and get to see what happens in the campaign. They are going to add the option to buy the seasonal levels at the end of the season with premium credits if you missed out on playing during the season. So obviously most of the people who play during the season will be able to easily get to the end of the season track, but if you jump in and you really don't want to miss out on something on that track, you can buy it with premium credits. They gave examples of some of the stuff you'll be able to find on the premium track, like apparel keys, crafting materials, named weapon skins, which is pretty interesting, random gear, emotes, clothing sets. They're now adding full body gear dyes, so basically all parts of your gear will be changed by these types of gear dyes, so that's really nice. Textiles, and more. Then they went ahead and showed the animated trailer for Warlords of New York that they dropped the other day. I've watched it. It's really cool. I'll leave a link in the description so you can go and watch that, and you definitely should because it's a pretty nice prologue to what we're going to be jumping into next Tuesday. So then they did one of the developer Q&As that they like to do, and this one was interesting enough. This time they were talking to Nikki, and they were talking about the crafting bench in Warlords of New York. So for level 30, it won't be guaranteed that you get a max gear score piece like it is now, which now the max gear score, if you stay at level 30 and you don't buy the expansion, the max is 515, but basically now you'll have a range of the power scale of what kind of gear you're going to get, probably from like 500 or 515. So that's how it's going to work there. And then for level 40, you will have to re-level up your bench, but what they were saying made it sound like you don't have to pay materials. Basically, it'll automatically upgrade as you go from level 30 to 40, so that's nice. They said exotics are being reworked just like everything else, and upgrades with the old exotics using exotic materials will be coming after launch, but not at launch. I'm a little bit salty about this. I wish once you hit level 30, you could just upgrade some of your old ones because I feel like it would be a nice bonus for people who did play during year one and grinded those out to be able to upgrade them right away. But yeah, we'll just have to wait a little bit, and then that'll come probably a few months after the launch of Warlords of New York. So yeah, guys, that's a ton of info that they gave today about seasons and about the endgame of Warlords of New York. What do you guys think about all this news? What do you think about Striker returning? There's almost too much to discuss, so I'll leave it here. Leave your thoughts and any questions down in the comments below. Get hyped because we only have 6 days left until Warlords launches. I'm going to be putting out as many videos as I possibly can after launch, so stay tuned for everything Division 2 and Warlords related. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe with notifications on so you're updated every time I upload, and until the next one, guys, RogueGold, out.